Well, we're back. It's GT Open time. Round 4 at Hungaroring at Budapest. We've already crossed the chapters of the Algarve. We've headed to Hockenheim. We blasted around Spa. We now make our way around this Hungarian circuit. 4.381 kilometers. Clockwise track, 14 turns, 9 to the right, 5 to the left. 70 minutes of action lie in wait with the driver change period between the 28th and the 42nd minute. The story so far, though, it's all been about our Faisal Zubair and Michael Grenier, but they're not here this weekend, as we all know, doing a sparse run here in the International GT Open, as they generally do. It's all about, at this point, Dominic Baumann and Mikel Pitamba. They are on pole for the second time this season in bidding to become a race winner once again this campaign. Their best result so far this season has been second. They could upgrade it this time around. George Morgan here, your commentator. Alongside me is Chris Stevens. And Chris, after Spa, we kissed goodbye to the Enduro. We're now heading in to 70-minute action once again.
Yeah, back in the sprint format, the usual format of 2 races in a weekend, one 70-minute, one 60-minute. And yes, for the second time this season, Dominic Baumann lining up on pole position. It was back in Portimao. One podium finish so far to their name. But they have been very, very consistent throughout the campaign, whereas others have been a bit more, had a few more peaks and troughs. And so that's served them well in the championship. They come here 4th in the standings, effectively 3rd if you discount Faisal Zubair and Michael Grenier, given that they're only a part-time campaign. And the top 3 in qualifying, Dominic Baumann, Eddie Cheever, and this man, Fabian Schiller, separated by just 35 thousandths of a second in very different conditions to what we have now. It was a deluge this morning, but now it is nice and dry. It certainly is. No concerns of a wet track right now, which would be good news for Nicola Marinangeli. I'm sure he'll be looking to pounce on this one. He's going to be alongside Vincent Abril during the course of this race. Of course, last year, Nicola Marinangeli was in a battle for the lead on the final lap. It all erupted between he and Sam Dahan going through the final stages, which would lead to Maximilian Paul, who in effect returns this weekend. There's Carol Bash. He was electric this morning, doing his utmost to try and unlock the pace and find more time. You would have factored him in to the pole equation at some point, but a few errors creeping in, just seemingly because he was on the limit, Chris. He certainly was, especially on the exit of turn 7. Some great slow-mo shots that we got to see in qualifying, and it's music to the ears of any racing driver, any fan of racing, getting to see someone like Carol Bash pushing the absolute limits of that Audi R8. Another of the Audis being from the reigning team's champions, East Talent Racing. Hopefully they'll pop that door back on properly before the race starts. Don't want any Ferrari or Le Mans potential issues there. And we see the car collection Porsche there as well. Alex Fontana at the wheel, starting from 8th position. He's got 2 of his class rivals right behind him as well. One of them being the Attempto Racing Audi. Here it is, so new for this weekend. Alex Acker qualifying the car this morning and starting the race today. And he's sharing the car with Florian Scholz, who, of course, is the last overall Pro-Am race winner, which happened at this track 2 years ago.
Certainly did. Such a grand location to return back to GT Open racing. So we wish Florian the very best of luck, and his teammate Michele Rugolo as well in the Ferrari Spirit of Race Ferrari 296, sitting in 10th place. Also has a very strong legacy in this championship. Was fighting it out in the past against the greats of Andrea Montemini and also many others, including Ricard Lietz, as well as Joel Mathias, Marcel Fasler. There's the car collection Porsche also sat there too. Gustav Bergström was at the wheel of that for qualifying this morning, the Swede. And we'll be looking for a good start to this race. Onwards, we have another Ferrari, this time the Brazilian pairing of Alan Couder and his teammate Marcelo Hahn. Now, these two have had success here in the past alike, achieving pole position back in 2018, and they would do exactly the same the following season. Never quite able to convert those into victories, but they have form around this track.
They certainly do. Well, they have form in the whole championship. Former Pro-Am champions, of course, back in the McLaren days, and it was Teo Martin Motorsport running the car back then, but now the Blau Motorsport entry run by AF Corsa in the Ferrari, so very different to when they won the championship a couple of years ago. They said that was the highlight of their racing career together. They've spent 17 years racing together, have Marcelo Hahn and Alain Kader. Like a good marriage, they described it. So Lorenzo Fluxa there on the right-hand side, giving some last-minute advice to Lucas Dunner there. Lorenzo Fluxa, one of 7 substitute drivers for this weekend. Although I understand that Lorenzo Fluxa might be sticking around for a little bit longer in the number 96 Motorpark Mercedes. Of course, LMP2 race winner in ELMS with Cool Racing. Just did the Le Mans 24 Hours as well. But, of course, a number of our regular drivers competing in the 6 Hours of the Glen in IMSA. So Tiemann van der Helm, Jordan Pepper, and Giorgio Senna-Giotto, all running substitute drivers for this weekend. Also Luca Ludwig, he's racing in Ferrari Challenge this weekend. Rolf and Eichen still recovering from injury as well. And Lewis Proctor, having recently got married, he is not here with us this weekend. So a number of unknown quantities going into this race, not just because of the drivers, but also because the conditions are so different to what we've had so far throughout the entire weekend. Yesterday, searing heat, 38 degrees air temperature, track temperature well in excess of 50, and then the rain this morning, and well, look at it now, track temperature 37 degrees, significantly cooler than what it was yesterday, air temperature only 23. So there's a lot of question marks about who holds the ultimate race pace. Yeah, because essentially anything that you've drafted through free practice, you might as well just rip it up and throw it in the bin, because obviously the way they would have, the manner they would have practiced in. Though saying that, things are getting probably more in line with where we were back on Thursday and Friday. But as we take a nice panoramic shot of all the cars heading down this straight, you can look and see some of the Oregon Lamborghinis. They, of course, winning here with Max Paul only last season. Of course, we mentioned him making his return to the championship once again. Let's take you through the highlights from the Spa 500 in the International GT Open. It was a great getaway for the likes of Diego Menchaca and Marcos Seibert heading through towards turn 1. Poor Gustav Bergström, though, will get collected after a collision with Nicola Marinangeli coming out of the first corner at La Source, which put an end to their race. We would then see Fabian Schiller take the lead at the forefront, but he would come under excruciating attack. Both he and Bartone up against the Oregon Lamborghini, making its way through the bus stop chicane. Got oh so tight at that point. Michael Grenier and Alphonse Hubert would swap over during the driver train change period. They were very much in this fight with Team Motorpark at the very start. The race essentially centred around them. Wheel-to-wheel again action between the number 10 Oregon team Lamborghini as it would progressively rise up through the order. They had a wonderful race after the final pit stop. Eventually, Alessio Toledo would also look to go wheel-to-wheel, heading in towards the right-hander at Rivage, managing to hold on, but at the expense of the Fabian Schiller and Anthony Bartone car in itself. Though Fabian Schiller would get himself past Christopher Haase, who had his own problems. Stanislav Jedlinski would also spin his car coming through out of Stavolo. And then this moment occurred, a miscommunication during the pit stop phase for both Diego Menchaca and Seibert would lead to Alphonse Hubert and Michael Grenier taking the GT Open 500. And as a consequence, this is how the championship looks. Off the back of it, Alphonse Hubert and Michael Grenier lead the way. 53 points to their name, 8 points behind Alessio Toledo and Jordan Pepper, with Marcos Seibert and Diego Menchaca on 44. Dominic Baumann and Michael Pitamba are pole sitters, they're in fourth. So it's nearly race time here in the International GT Open here at Hungaroring. It's going to be a long road to the finish line. 70 minutes in total, back to the standard procedure. Here is the starting grid. Let's take you through it. On pole position, Dominic Baumann for the SPS Performance Mercedes. Eddie Cheever lines up second. Fabian Schiller in third. Nicola Marinangeli in fourth. Then down to fifth, we head across the Carol Bash. Marcos Seibert alongside him on the same row of the grid, third row in sixth. Simon Riker in seventh. Alex Fontana in eighth. In ninth spot then, it's Alex Acker in ninth with Michele Rugolo in 10th.
Further down in 11th place, Gustav Bergström. Alan Kader in 12th place. Then in 13th is Leonardo Polcini with Lucas Dunner in 14th. Next up is Aaron Walker in 15th with Timo Rumpf-Kyle starting in 16th place for Team Motorpark. Emil Persson in 17th place with Alessio Deletta starting 18th. 19th place for Artem Petrov, Thomas Eichen in 20th. And further down in 21st place is Jim Pla with Daniel Nagy, hometown hero, in 22nd. 23rd is Philip Salakada in the Audi R8 LMS. Ernst Kirkmeyer starts 24th. In 25th is Giuseppe Cipriani, one of the legends of this series, starting in that place, with Dexter Muller lining up alongside him. Alessandro Cosi in 27th, Kiki Satnana in 28th. 29th place, it's Stanislav Jedlinski with Stuart Proctor lining up in 30th.
Yeah, it was an electrical issue, George, I believe, for the 66 Greystone GT McLaren, which is why that car didn't set a time in qualifying.
Yeah, tough, is it, for them to get things underway? Obviously, if you're Lewis Proctor, you're probably not too upset that you're missing this one. He
seems to be somewhere much sunnier than here at the moment, judging by his Instagram stories.
Well, credit to him. Obviously, we wish him the very best on his latest nuptials, and hope he enjoys his honeymoon as well. But he'll be, I'm sure, watching on to see how his father gets on through the course of this race. But it's a long way to the finish line. Stuart Proctor will be looking to maximise every opportunity. I did bump into Joe Osborne earlier on, who is in the Greystone garage and working with the team despite not having a drive this weekend. But he's heading to Spa shortly too, as we now watch the cars make their way in towards the final few corners to bring an end to the formation lap. The crowd's all watching on. The Hungaroring support, as it always has been, stellar in this series. We look forward to getting this race underway. The question is, who leads at turn 1? Is it going to be Baumann? Will it be Cheever? They're going to run wheel to wheel now through turn 13 before venturing the final corner around turn 14 to get this race underway. Will it be a purple day? Will it go to pit amber? Who knows? Further back, Fabian Schiller will be looking to get a good launch as well. Keep your eyes peeled on him in the Mercedes-AMG GT3. Nicola Marinangeli starting fourth. He's not afraid to set it up the inside, and Carol Bash is oh so quick. Marcos Seibert looking for a redemption arc after what happened last time at Spa-Francorchamps with Simon Riker handing over to Christopher Haase later on as the cars now wind up, heading up through towards the line. And here at Hungaroring, we're going to put pedal to the metal, and it is go, 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 go. Great start for Dominic Baumann, who immediately now sprints clear. There you can see further back as well Fabian Schiller with Carol Bash, who's managed to get the jump on many of them here. Unfortunately, Marcos Seibert getting tied up to the inside. Simon Riker taking a very aggressive line of the inside heading through towards turn 2 now. This time, still it's Eddie Cheever in second, Bash into third, Fabian Schiller down to fourth. Then further back, we have Nicola Marinangeli doing battle with Marcos Seibert as the collective of cars sprint through turns 2 in towards turn 3. Baumann consolidates the lead.
There was contact between Bash and Schiller at the first corner. 2 Oregon Lamborghini off, one coming off far worse than the other. And there was a third car involved there down at turn number 3. So we'll pick up on who that was as soon as we can. I think the Blau Motorsport car ended up picking up some grass as well before they even got to the first corner. But it is Baumann, Cheever, Bash into third, ahead of Schiller. And then the Motorpark Mercedes and Marcos Seibert as well.
Yeah, Carol Bash looking all over the back of Eddie Cheever. Bear in mind, that is the Pro-Am lead fight that we're watching there as well as they make their way out of turn 6 and turn 7 up the chicane. They've got the final sector to come, and they'll begin in the next lap. Bash having to renege somewhat, but he was so much faster coming out of turn 7. He was searching, he was hunting for that Pro-Am lead.
He certainly was. The Motorpark car, Lucas Dunner, I think that was, taking a slightly wider line out there. And then the 43 there on the left-hand side, that is the Zengo Motorsport car that Jim Pla has just made his way past. Of course, the Zengo being the local team and driver entry, making their GT3 debut. Side by side for the lead in Pro-Am, though, and for second place overall, Carol Bash trying to get right round the outside of the last corner, but you're not going to do any Cheever like that.
You just know that Carol Bash was watching the European Championships last night, wasn't obviously happy with the fact that Poland lost out to Austria. This time, Bash is chasing lead lead. Well, certainly chasing for the lead away in terms of the Pro-Am fight, away from Eddie Cheever, as Cheever now holds the inside, trying to defend the spot, but just looking behind. It's never nice to see Fabian Schiller in your rearview mirror either, as they now head down in towards turn 2. Bash haunting that rear wing on that Ferrari 296 that is somewhat more defensively minded, and rightly so, because that Audi R8 LMS is going to be pressurising and puncturing its way through this initial stint in a bid to take this lead away from him.
It's a great start by Polcini as well. He's up into 6th place, so great start for the Oregon Lamborghini there. So that would imply that it was the 19 and the 10 who were in the escape road at turn number 3 on the first lap. But on board here with Carol Bash going through the chicane at turns 6 and 7, taking plenty of curb through there. And Bash is looking very, very quick at the moment, but we know how hard it is to overtake on this track. Meanwhile, Dominic Baumann is stretching his legs, nearly 2 seconds clear, as the car collection Porsche, Gustav Bergström, rounds up the AM leader, or second in AM, I should say, Giuseppe Cipriani, for what is 16th position overall. What happened to Bergström on that first lap?
I don't know. He got definitely must have got swarmed up upon heading in towards turn 1, but he's trying to recover the deficit heading in towards turn 1 nonetheless. As we now watch the cars run wheel to wheel, there's the number 10 of Alessio Deleda being pursued by Ernst Kirkmeyer, as well as many others. Of course, the number 8 as well, Giuseppe Cipriani, in the mix of all this too, has managed to, at least off the back of the car collection Porsche, get him past him. He's got a sea of cars that are looking to try and pick him off. Ernst Kirkmeyer being one of them here, Chris.
Yeah, Cipriani got his mirrors full at the moment, with Pro-Am and Pro cars behind him, back with the leaders. You see Dominic Baumann is stretching his legs out the front, 2.4 clear now of Eddie Cheever in second. He just had a little wiggle there, and Bash was a little wide through turn 2 there, and of course he's got, you know, Mercedes Works driver Fabian Schiller all over his tail. So this could be interesting, and you know, we're thinking that this track is between the Audis and the Mercedes in terms of, you know, who it's going to suit best of the various manufacturers, the 6 manufacturers that are represented on the GT Open field for this weekend. But that was not enough of a mistake there from Bash to allow Schiller to come through. And of course, these two were on the front row together in Portimao after a wet qualifying session there as well. So they have gone toe-to-toe before. We're seeing it again here this weekend. We're on board here with Marin Angeli in 7th position. It's the 2022 champion, Leonardo Polcini, in the 63 Oregon Lamborghini that's directly in front of him. And so Marin Angeli lost a little bit of ground on that opening lap. He started 4th. He's now in 7th. Yeah, certainly is. Marin Angeli now having to try and recover in his own right. Had probably his best qualifying, though, ever in the International GT Open off the back of that result. And we'll be heading across to Vincent Abril later on. Fastest lap for Dominic Baumann, who leads this race. Though I will say this, Eddie Cheever purple in accordance to the timing screen. I wonder if that might be a slight error on part of the telemetry data that we are receiving. But at this point, Baumann does have the fastest lap as they now sprint down towards the line. Cheever's just done the fastest lap of the race, so reduced the deficit to 2.3 seconds, marginally quicker than race leader Dominic Baumann on that previous lap. You see here Alain Kader in the Blau Motorsports run by AF Corsa at Ferrari, looking at the back of reigning teams champions. His talent, Simon Riker, at the wheel of that car. He has lost a place since the start of the race, started in 7th, but still looking at the back of Marin Angeli there. And infinitely, the gap is between Polcini, isn't he? He's about a second behind Marcos Seeber in the Motorpark Mercedes ahead of him. So it's a train of cars fighting 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th at the moment.
Dominic Baumann enlisting yet another purple sector in the first, so starting to enhance his charge. Eddie Cheever, there's the confirmation, does have the fastest lap of the race, so I will be quiet as we now watch the cars make their way through turn 6 and 7.
He's going to find you after this race,
He certainly will do. He's going to hunt me down, isn't he? But Eddie Cheever doing a great job because, of course, keeping Carol Bash at bay is never an easy thing to do. So we all know the qualities of the pole. He is just that good, and trying to marginalise him and his performance is a very tricky business. But you can see now the gap off the back of the success that Cheever had in putting that fastest lap together, and over this current lap, it's now 1.1 between Bash and Cheever.
He's just gone fastest in the middle sector as well as Cheever. So maybe struggling to get the car in the window or the tyres in the window on those first couple of laps, but now he's underway. He seems to be much more comfortable out there and putting a bit of distance between himself and his class rival, of course. That's first and second in Pro-Am. They'll be handing over to their AMs in the second half of this race. But look how close Marinangeli is to the back of Polcini here. So let's see what works out best. The 5.2-litre V10 in the Lamborghini or the 3-litre twin-turbo V6 in the Ferrari. Well, for now it's Lamborghini ahead, and Riker having to think about Kader behind him as well. He was a little defensive into turn one.
He certainly was, just trying to keep the Ferrari at bay and behind. Fabian Schiller now on the attack of Karel Basch as they head out of turn two and now sprint down through towards turn three. The rise up through towards turn four could yet provide an opportunity here for Schiller if he fancies a run heading through towards turn five. All depends on the run they get here at this portion of circuit. You've got to be wary of track limits alike. That's going to be a prevalent issue here at Hungaroring, but Dominic Baumann still in control and in charge. Chiva's still going to work though. That deficit coming down, 2.1 now.
Yeah, it was another 2/10 quicker on that previous lap was Chiva, so he's starting to do something about that deficit to Baumann. But this certainly seems like the closest fight on track at the moment, doesn't it, between Karel Basch and Fabian Schiller. Schiller, of course, Mercedes works driver, and, well, in my opinion, Karel should be a works driver for at least Audi, but we've seen the supreme speed that this pole has, and in that Olymp Audi, he's definitely a demon. So it's keeping Schiller at bay for now. Of course, he'll be in a Mercedes for the Spa 24 Hours next weekend, actually, will Karel Basch. But for now, keeping Audi represented on the field. We actually have 4 Audis on the grid, which is actually more than we had last year when Audi was still doing the factory program. So we all thought we were going to lose Audi from GT3 racing. Well, we've actually got more of them.
It's a nostalgia piece now.
Yeah, it is. Well, of course, the arrival of the Attempto as well, and ISR
as
for
well.
This grid
Philip Salicada
as well. Yes, exactly. Right. Back with Polcini and Marinangeli. Still, Marinangeli has got a face full of Lamborghini, and Riker still thinking a little bit about Alam Kader. Got Alex Fontana and Lucas Dunner and Michele Rugolo right in that fight as well. So a great string of cars here fighting for positions. Marinangeli nearly into the back of Polcini in the middle of turn two. So much more apex speed in the Ferrari. And of course, all these cars, they produce their lap time in different ways, whether it's the straight line or high speed or low speed corners, balance and performance to string all these cars out so that in theory they can do the same lap time. The 296 is famed for just the sheer amount of downforce it has for a GT3 car, and the driver's saying it feels more like a prototype than a GT3 car. And of course, it's slightly newer than the Lamborghini as well. It's a whole new model of the Ferrari, whereas the Huracan has been is the second evolution of it. So we had the Evo, we're now on the Evo 2 of the Lamborghini. So it's a known platform at the moment, a bit like the Mercedes, which seems to have been around for donkey's years. But actually, that being said, we are getting a new car for 26 from Mercedes, most likely based on the coupe. But that's all the rumour mill at the moment. Speaking of Mercedes, 2 of them going side by side here. So that's Aaron Walker in the number 6 Get Speed Mercedes, rounding up Timo Rumpfkeil, the AM leader. Get Speed versus Motor Park, and in terms of Mercedes battles, that is a pretty big one, especially in this paddock, because also they both have their team bosses driving as well in the AM category. Right now, the honours are going to Motor Park in 14th position overall, Timo Rumpfkeil.
Yeah, looking pretty strong at the moment. Timo Rumpfkeil has had a good season alongside his Heiko Neumann, his teammate. And, they will be swapping when the driver change period opens up. Dominic Baumann not necessarily sitting pretty, or certainly as pretty as he was before. The gap now 1.7 between Chiva and himself. There's Mikael Pitamba waiting in the garage for his turn to take over at the SPS Performance Mercedes outfit as they now sprint up through towards turn 4 again. Fabian Schiller getting, trying to get closer again to Karel Basch, but Basch, I think, now finally starting to find a little bit of ground. He's managed to put 5/10 in between he and the Mercedes in behind. Marcos Seber still there too. He's about a second in behind these runners. So getting drafted into this fight, as is Leonardo Polcini, who still has Nicola Marinangeli persevering after him. Simon Riker being met with Alam Kader, with Alex Fontana also waiting in the wings as they now sprint through the very fast sections through this next left-hander and the next right through turns 9 and 10 through towards turn 11. They'll then hustle through towards the straight at turn 12 and then beckon their way through the final sector. Still at this stage, Dominic Baumann advancing his charge, but still it's 1.7 though, and a purple second sector here for Eddie Cheever as he looks to draw that gap ever closer.
What's going to work in Eddie Cheever's favour as well, of course, is that the 777 has got 10 seconds of handicap to take as well, because they were the victors at the Spa Enduro, and they are title rivals, those two cars.
Close.
First and second in the Pro-Am Championship in Cheever and Polcini's favour, and separated by only 3 points. So this is a big fight that's happening here, but that Audi, that purple and green car, is going to take 10 extra seconds of the handicap, whereas the 27, the Cheever car, is unhandicapped for this race, so that's definitely going to work in their favour.
It certainly will, and you never know, we could be seeing it. Well, twists can happen. We've seen many of them in the International GT Open. Fabian Schiller still holds in that rear wing on Karel Basch's car, so he would love to get his Mercedes through and true into P3. Marco Seibert about to join the Mercedes conglomerate up at the higher end of the leaderboard, but further down, Leonardo Polcini just losing tread slightly off the tail of this bunch, with Nicola Marinangeli still pursuing him down now as they head around turn 5. Of course, I mean, look at the form that Dominic Baumann and Mikael Patambra have had in the past. Like we said, second pole position this season. They were one of the most winningest teams last year, if that's a word I can use.
Yes, I will give you that one.
Yeah. I think they are the winningest team. I think off the back of last season.
And Max Paul was part of that lineup with Pierre-Louis Chauvet as well. Of course, he's back this weekend. Right, got a replay of the start here. And it did seem like Baumann managed to drop Cheever very, very quickly. And Cheever got a little bit swallowed up almost, because Schiller was coming around the outside. Now watch the Olymp Audi. Bang! There was the contact between Basch and Schiller. Schiller going out wide there. 3 motorpark cars utilising the escape road there, and it got very, very tight there. I think that's the Aaron Walker GetSpeed Mercedes there, just in front of the Lamborghini, directly in front of us aboard the number 7 here. And Yannick Mettler, a wee smile there on you. Now, was that a cynical smile or was that a genuine smile?
That's a Dexter, what have you done smile there.
Yes, just trying to see where Dex is at the moment. 26th place. Maybe it was more of a cynical smile. Well, we'll see. I'm sure they'll explain all in their YouTube series that they're doing at the moment.
Actually.
It is very good. It's great insight. It's on the Car Barn by SBS YouTube channel. If you search that, you should be able to find it. Highly recommend giving that a watch. Right, 55 minutes left on the clock. We're about 15 minutes into this race now. Driver change opening in about 13. Still, Basch is soaking up this pressure from Schiller behind him, but he's really fallen off the back of Cheever now, nearly 4 seconds behind the Pro-Am leader. And it's not the direction he needs to be going in. With that 10-second handicap, he needs to be ahead of Cheever if they want any hope of being able to win this race in their categories. Right now, it's advantage Spirit of Race / AF Corsa. They are running the Spirit of Race cars, which is the 27 and the 51 as well, isn't it? The Marinangeli Vincent Abril car. And of course, Marcos Seibert is closing in on this fight as well, the Argentinian. I don't know how much he must be ruining that miscommunication at Spa that cost them a 4th consecutive podium finish, and they would be leading the championship coming into this weekend had they finished on the podium.
Yeah, I mean, if you take a look back at that replay, you can see the frustration on Diego Menchaca's face. I mean, he's had it rough, I must say, in the International GT Open. I mean, if you look back to the grand finale of 2023, where, of course, they narrowly missed out on the championship, very nearly taking it. Of course, that would have gone to Diego Menchaca. He didn't have Marcos Seibert with him that weekend because Marcos Seibert was busy winning the European Le Mans Series. As around the outside goes Fabian Schiller, running it very wide, coming out of turn 1. Karel Basch holding position, but if anything, it's invited Marcos Seibert further into this fight.
Yeah, Schiller a little hot into the first corner there, and having to pull up from behind the Mercedes, just behind the Audi, sorry. So just a little bit caught out there, and he has got to be careful because we know Seibert will strike if he gets half an opportunity. And Seibert doing the full campaign this year, unlike last year that you alluded to there, George. That Motor Park Mercedes as well, it has had to bounce back after starting their season the worst possible way, with not even starting the first race. And since that, there's been a flurry of podiums right up until Spa. And like we said, that consistency has been serving them well, because they are, in essence, second in the championship, 1 point off the leaders if we're ignoring the Alfa Zalazuber and Michael Grenier car, which makes sense because they are only a part-time campaign. So, yeah, it's even closer when you think of it like that. But look at this. Olymp Audi, Get Speed Mercedes, and oh, the drone there was getting a bit close. Oh my God! Oh, but yeah. Get Speed Mercedes and Motor Park Mercedes. Well, I was trying to get out there. I thought there was some debris or something at first. That was so bizarre.
Daring for a decent shot, I think. The car's making
I
away.
hope he got it.
Yeah, well, I hope so too. At this point, though, it's still Carol Bash who holds on to third place. Schiller back in his comfort zone after running a little wide, heading through turn 1 on the previous lap around, but they'll make their way around now on another lap with 52 minutes still to go. Marco Seibert bringing himself into this fight. We allude back to the redemption arc. There could be one on the table here. They are close in the championship with those high up the order. Of course, remember, it is Alfa Zalazuber and Michael Grenier who do lead the way as we now see them make their way through turn 2. There is Schiller just trying to point very more aggressive, I would say, coming through turn 2 and turn 3 than what Carol Bash was on that occasion, but it's fine margins at this stage, and Schiller could do with a bit more.
Cheever took half a second out of our race leader last time around. The gap down to 1 second now between Baumann and Cheever. 51 minutes left on the clock, and now this is the moment here. So it was contact is that the 19 that got spun around there with the Villorba Corsa? I want to say, no, that's the car in front of it.
Right, so this is...
so it was 3 cars involved. So yes, it was the Villorba Corsa, and then is that the Attempto Audi that then also gave the Mercedes a squeeze on the left-hand side there? But yeah, Artem Petrov, I think it was, who came off worse in all of that.
We just saw a shake of the head as well from Marzio Moretti, and also Jerry Canavisio watching alongside Marzio Moretti, of course, team boss at Team Oregon, a very passionate human being with very colourful trousers. As you know, watch the...
yes, they are.
As you know, watch the cars make their way through this final sector once again. Oh, very wide there.
Well,
that was Marco Seibert. Took a diversion through towards the pit lane.
They're rounding up the Olymp Ferrari, Stanislav Jedlinski. That's probably why it was just a bit offline there. So traffic now starting to come into play as well, which is interesting. And so that has gapped the 2 Mercedes a little bit, but Schiller's still hot on the heels of Carol Bash.
Team managers for the cars 69 and 75 to report to Racing Control. So the 69 is belonging to Jim Pla.
Yes, so that's the Villorba Corsa car that I think was caught up in that, but also the ISR. So maybe it's the ISR Audi rather than the Attempto.
Yeah.
That was in that little squabble.
Yeah, just drifting onto the grass. I think we saw from the Villorba Corsa, just making their way up through towards turn 4, and therefore losing quite a bit of time, but it worked to the benefit of the Oregon Lamborghini that of Alessio Di Ledo, who managed to then move up into 16th. So it wasn't necessarily all doom and gloom as far as Lamborghini were concerned. Marzio Moretti give a head shake though, however. Carol Bash starting to find a little bit of breathing space between he and Schiller, still persevering. I'm looking at the deficit as well between Eddie Cheever and Dominic Baumann. Baumann currently slower by a small matter of, should we say, 42 thousandths in that first sector.
But the gap's gone back out again, so I wonder if that's rounding up the traffic. Cheever got a bit caught out there because it's back up to 1.4 now. So the work done on that previous lap has been outdone.
Yeah, but, still have 49 minutes still to go, and Dominic Baumann still sits out in front. In terms of the gaps elsewhere, we have got fights. But it's getting very close there for the Ferrari 51 of Nicola Marinangeli pursuing after Leonardo Polcini. And both these drivers having both having busy careers in single-seater racing. Leonardo Polcini, of course, successful in Euro Formula action, was a champion in that championship after then taking a second championship under the GT Sport organisation after winning the International GT Open in 2022. Nicola Marinangeli crossing over to GT3 cars out of single-seater racing, where he competed in the Euro Formula Open for Van Amersfoort back in 2022, and also racing prior to that in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. As we now see them head through the initial few corners on the opening sector. There behind you can see Marcos Seibert still tracking these two in their battle for third place. And then there's Marinangeli and Polcini in behind, and I must say credit as well must go to Simon Riker, who's also managed to close up to the back of Marinangeli. Into the pits though comes Artem Petrov.
Well, that's got to be a problem because the pit window's not open, and wow, that looks like some sort of issue on that Oregon Lamborghini. They weren't in any great hurry to address anything, were they? So wow, unfortunately it looks like we might have lost Artem Petrov from this race.
Yeah,
now this is for the lead. Look at this. Chivas hauled right in on this lap alone. It was back down to 1.1 at the start of the lap, but it's much less than that now. Chivas flying on this lap so far. Well, let's see what the gap is when they get over the timing line. 5 minutes to go until the driver change window. I imagine both of these guys will extend as much as possible. But the gap now 0.9 of a second. So yeah, Chivas really starting to haul in our race leader now.
Certainly is. Getting closer and closer. He's broken to within a second. Remember, it was 1.4 only a lap or so ago. Warning has been broached as well to car 88 for track limits. Carol Bash now out wide, as now we see Fabian Schiller up the inside at turn 1. The Audi having to forego against the Mercedes. Schiller now has finally managed to chip away and break ahead of the pole as they head in towards turn 2, but Bash might yet come back. Not quite this time. Schiller holding on, but maybe runs slightly wide. Is there an opening there for Bash? Not quite. Schiller now in P3.
Yeah, nicely done on the brakes into the first corner from Schiller. So he's up into third position. 7 seconds behind the top 2 now is Schiller. So he's got quite a bit of work to try and close that gap. That is another car that is unhandicapped because as sort of ominous as their performance in the opening round of the season was, we haven't actually seen them up at the front of the field for a while. In fact, they haven't been on the podium since they won in Portimao. Of course, there was the spin for Bartone in Hockenheim on the last lap, or with a few minutes to go, I should say, and then front suspension issue, retiring from the second race in Hockenheim, and then they just missed out on the podium in Spa as well. I think they were 5th in that race. So, yeah, it's been a while since we've seen Schiller and Bartone on the top step of, or on any step of the podium. Here it is again. See, just late braking maneuver on the inside into turn 1. And when you get, you know, works drivers coming into this championship, and you think, oh well, they're going to be absolutely dominant, aren't they? But look at where Schiller is in the standings, and we haven't, you know, Jordan Pepper and Alessio Di Letta haven't exactly been walking away with it. They're leading the championship at the moment, but you know, they haven't had it all their own way. Of course, and of course Christopher Haase as well. So you know.
Well, the gaps
it's great to have these drivers, but yeah.
The gaps are minuscule in terms of the championship right now. The championship is still very much open. It could go anywhere, but Carol Bash is now under pressure because Marcos Seibert has also managed to close up after Schiller has now cruised on clear. The gap now between Schiller and Bash has extended to 1.8 seconds already. So Schiller going to work. What should I say, the gap between, yes it is, sorry, Carol Bash between him and Schiller, 1.8, so already in comes the ISR Audi. Now that's interesting.
That's early as well.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, that's the other car that's the other car that had contact, so maybe they've got some sort of problem on that car as well that can't go unattended. So at this point, do you just do the driver change and take the penalty? No, they won't. That looks more like a retirement for that car, sadly. Right, Fabian Schiller doing the fastest lap of the race once he's in clean air, unsurprisingly perhaps, 48.0. Still 7 seconds behind Eddie Cheever in second. The lead gap now just half a second as the Spirit of Race Ferrari closes in on the SPS Mercedes. Of course, 2 very different fights that these 2 cars are having. The SPS going for the overall title, whereas the reigning Pro-Am champions looking to defend their crown in their class.
And they're looking good value for a race win here as well, certainly considering where the handicaps are strung out, and given the fact that they've also broken clear of Carol Bash by some margin. obviously it does mean that it is likely to fall into the hands of Spirit of Race come the end of this very race, in fact, as they now blast down through towards turn 1. There is Carol Bash with Marco Siebe, and then following up in behind Leonardo Polcini with Nicola Marinangeli, towing along Simon Riker, as well as Alam Coder, who is currently third in the Pro-Am classification right now, coming through towards turn 2. There is, at this stage, Polcini, being followed by Marinangeli. Further back, Alex Fontana being closely pursued by with Lucas Dunner just in behind him too. So quite a sea of different cars now. Various cars, various manufacturers appearing in the top 10 and top 11 by extension, with Fontana on the tail of this group as they now head out of turn 5 and sprint down through towards turns 6 and 7. I tell you what, the way this continues, Siebe might yet have an opportunity to break away ahead of this Audi.
Could yet. Of course, Siebe in 5th position. See, this is the gap that Schiller's been able to pull in just a couple of laps. Shows you how much pace that Schiller had that he wasn't able to use while he was balked behind the Audi in front of him. And we talk about the difficulty of overtaking at the Hungaroring. Well, that's how much quicker you need to be to get it done, because he's gone off like a scolded cat.
He was 1.5 a lap or so ago, and now it's 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Truly unbelievable pace on part of Fabian Schiller. And it only takes him getting past Carol Bash to actually make that happen. And Marco Siebe has the same ideas, but now comes into the pits. Yeah, changes on.
Yeah, literally just opened a few seconds ago.
Well timed.
That is very well timed. So Diego Menchaca about to get on board the number 17 Motor Park Mercedes, which is the first car to blink. That car does have 5 seconds of handicap to take. So it will be stationary for a little bit longer. Also into the pits is Nicola Marinangeli, Simon Riker and Lucas Dunner as well. So it's about to get very busy in the pit lane. You see a fresh set of Michelin rubber about to get on board that car. And the tyres have been a big talking point here, especially in the heat of yesterday. The tyre wear was pretty staggering. It's not normally something we would ever consider, bearing in mind the stints are, what, half an hour long? But the difference in performance between the start of the stint and the end of the stint was just staggering yesterday. So we'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, it's a lot cooler than it was yesterday, but could still well be a factor.
Yeah, we welcome back David Fuminelli to the championship as well, who is also making an appearance alongside Ernst Kirkmeyer back in the Ferrari. And very shortly he'll make his way out on track. We did catch as well Maximilian Paul about to jump in instead of Alessio De Leda. So a chance here for potentially more major moments brought to you by Maximilian Paul. We'll have to wait and see what this second stint delivers. As Kiki Saknana comes in, Adam Osaka will take over control of that car alike. As now the pit lane continues to get busier at this stage. In comes Stanislav Jedlinski, who will swap in for Christian Korzanowski will swap in his stead, and then make their way back out. As in you come Stanislav, and out comes Christian Korzanowski to help relieve him of his seat.
Yeah, it was tentative on the way in, wasn't it?
Very tentative.
Yes. So where has this put this lot then? So Marinangeli, or Vincent Abril now, I should say, in the 51, right behind Diego Menchaca, Christopher Haase in East Talent Audi, right behind them as well. Now, but these were the first cars to come in, remember. And they have come out in a, well, wait for the timing screen to update, actually, because it seems like the top 10-ish haven't stopped yet. So Nico Menzel is about to get on board the car collection Porsche. There's some damage there on that left rear corner, but Gustav Bergström vacating the car collection Porsche. Menzel getting in. So just wait to see where this all unfolds, where everyone comes out relative to each other. So Baumann, Cheever, Schiller, Bash and co are all extending this as much as possible, I think. So still Cheever chases the back of Baumann.
Yeah, Cheever trying to close down on Dominic Baumann to at least try and grow that gap between he and Carol Bash, but very much aware that, you know, 10 seconds has got to be served by him. Daniel Nagy, the hometown hero, and here for this weekend. Great to have them here taking part. I know they've got a lot of fans that are supporting them this weekend, as the Zengo Mercedes now undertakes its change.
Yeah, Daniel they didn't do any testing. They had like a 10-lap shakedown at the new Balloton Park circuit just down the road from Budapest. Before coming here this weekend. So their first real laps in anger were in free practice yesterday. For team and driver moving from the world of touring car racing into GT racing, and potentially joining us for a few other rounds throughout the season. There's a lot of work, a lot of learning to be done aboard that car, but he was quite good in qualifying. He was in 22nd place. So we'll see where he finishes.
Yeah, I'm proud to say, because I'm driving a Suzuki Swift this weekend, obviously Daniel Nagy, formerly a racer in the Hungarian Suzuki Swift Cup.
Yes, he was. Thanks, Hertz, for the rental. Yeah,
fabulous. The 63 Oregon Lamborghini coming in as well for a driver change, so yet more cars getting their other drivers into the car as the changeover window pursues. We've still got 9 minutes and 22 of it still to go. Some of them will take a long stint. You would have thought Dominic Baumann, one of those, as is Eddie Cheever. Fabian Schiller will no doubt take it right to the bitter end, as will Carol Bash, Alan Coder, Fontana, Connor Prim then, obviously, boxing into the 63. Still have to wait and see where he comes out, because of course Michele Rugolo and Thomas Eichen, Aaron Walker, various numbers of them that have already boxed. Obviously there's quite a few that still haven't, but still nonetheless, Connor Prim, I wouldn't say necessarily in the position where he should be in this timing tower right now.
No, he'll update to get over the timing line, I would imagine. Just a reminder, the first car to come in, it was the 17, well, the lead car that has come in is the 17 Motorpark car. It's in 16th at the moment, and the top two go around for another lap. Still got 8 minutes left on the driver change window, so there's still plenty of time for these two to keep stretching their legs. But you see how Schiller's closing in on them as well. That gap was 7.5 seconds a few laps ago. It's now 3.8. He's lapping, last time around 4 tenths quicker. But definitely Schiller is closing in on these guys. Now he's in clean air. And we've seen Cheever, he's slowly been creeping away at that gap to Baumann. Can he actually pass him for position, I wonder? As Aaron Walker into the pits in the Pro-Am Get Speed Mercedes, that 5th in the Pro-Am standings, just scored their first podium or class podium of the season at Spa last time out, alongside Valentin Pierberg. Pierberg back from his experience in the Road to Le Mans race with Get Speed last weekend.
I mean, speaking of Schiller, no doubts as to his pace. Obviously, still yet to stop. A sea of cars is still yet to box right now, but Schiller going ahead in winning in Asian Le Mans Series last year. Well, should I say runner-up in Asian Le Mans Series last year, but has had much success in the past when competing. Also taking part runner-up in the Motorsport Games back in 2022, and also a champion in the BSS Silver Cup in 2017, and in 2016 the Renault Sport Trophy Endurance Am champion back then alike. He's come a long way since 2016. And now closing the gap this time on Eddie Cheever. It's now 3.8 as another car bails into the pits. And just seeing it break on through.
That's the Tempto Audi, yeah. I think it was.
Just breaking clear, so no signs of Eddie Cheever coming in just yet, but they'll be thinking about it in the next lap or two.
That certainly will. Jim Pla has picked up a 5-second time penalty for track limits. Meanwhile, as Stephen Gray gets on board the Greystone GT McLaren, long-time friend of Stuart Proctor, who's filling in for Lewis Proctor this weekend is Stephen Gray, and had a chance to test the car in Portimao back in February. Now this is Vincent Abreu looking at the back of Diego Menchaca, who's run a little bit wide at turn 4 there, and the Ferrari all over the back of the Mercedes, squabbling for what might be a net podium position in the end. And Christopher Haase right in the wheel tracks of that Ferrari as well as they head into the middle sector. It's follow the leader through here, so no way through.
No, not yet. Diego Menchaca now effectively the cork in the bottle, and Vincent Abreu has got a war on two fronts, because now Christopher Haase is going to look to bring the pain after what was a disappointing run back at Spa-Francorchamps, obviously alluding to the fact that they had their issues with the tyres. Now coming back here at Hungaroring, they've got a great chance with this Audi. Simon Riker doing a brilliant job on his opening stint, and now hands over to Haase, the Audi Works driver, who now goes in hot pursuit here of the 51 Ferrari of Vincent Abril. There is Dominic Baumann, still being pursued by Eddie Cheever alike as they head in towards turn 11 and then through towards turns 12 and 13 before then taking a run down the home straight. Looking at the timer, they still have a little bit of time to go. The change window is still very much underway, coming down into the final I think the final few minutes, in fact, but final 5 minutes.
I think it is.
Coming in towards the final 5 minutes of the changeover period. Dominic Baumann about to cross that line as it stands, but Cheever still not leaving him alone.
No, just less than 0.4 of a second between the top two, and Schiller is still closing them down as well, 3.4 seconds back from this lead battle, as Cheever still looks at the back of that AMG Mercedes, heading back up towards turn 2. So I have a feeling these guys will run it right down to the last possible lap before they can come in for their driver change. And who's in now? That's the 88 Spirit of Race car, Gino Fulgioni, about to get on board that car, taking over from Michele Rugolo. So where was that? Was in 8th position, but of course elevated while we're in this pit stop phase. The leaders making their way up to the chicane now. They do have relatively clear air in front of them as well, as Jim Pla comes in the Villorba Corsa Mercedes. Michael Blanchimont about to get on board that car.
Giuseppe Cipriani coming in as well, as things stand. A little bit of damage to the front of that Mercedes. Just buckled on the front grille, really, by the looks of it.
Yeah, probably as a result of that contact at turn 3 that we saw earlier. Giuseppe Cipriani, championship leader, into the pits as well. Solo driver is Giuseppe, so no driver change there. Just needs to sit in the car and serve the minimum pit stop time. And into the pits comes Baumann from the lead of the race. So 3 minutes left on the driver change window, and Baumann has come in. He'll hand over to the South African, Michael Pitamba. Eddie Cheever takes over the lead of the race. Fabian Schiller is also into the pits as well in the Get Speed Mercedes. So Anthony Bartone getting ready to take over the car, the number 9 machine. Was looking to build on the success they had together in Portimao. There is Bartone getting ready to help Fabian out of the car. Alam Kader also in as well in the Blau Motorsport car. Marcelo Hahn climbing on board. And there we can see the Mercedes behind dropped off its jack. So Michael Pitamba getting ready to leave the pit box. These are the cars they're fighting. They were a few seconds behind before the driver change window, and don't forget that Motorpark car had 5 seconds penalty, success penalty to handicap to serve as well. Heiko Neumann about to get on board the AM leading Motorpark Mercedes as well. Timo Rumpf bringing that car in, as out comes Pitamba behind them in the white and purple Mercedes from the SBS garage. Where is Diego? That is a good question. Just coming around the penultimate corner, I believe, according to our driver Chaka. So the SBS car should get out well into the lead by the looks of it, and Bartone will be not far behind as well.
Yeah, a getaway. Well, both of them are not needing to serve necessarily any penalties. Well, especially this car, the SPS Performance Mercedes, they can now run clear. They have got a nice gap in between them and the rest, but also you've got to focus on Eddie Cheever, who's still out and is yet to take his stop. Surely he's going to do it on this lap at this stage, and in he comes now. So in comes Eddie Cheever in the current lead of the race. He'll swap it out for Marco Pulcini, who will take over the seat. As it stands, the big question is, will it be Pulcini's car who leaves first, or will it be Pitamba?
Well, Pulcini got to sample the Ferrari F60 2009 Formula 1 car at Fiorano earlier in the week. So obviously a nice treat for him. Be a real treat if he got to hang on to the Pro-Am lead here as well, as Marcin Jedlinski climbs aboard the Olymp 777 Audi there as well. The number 12 coming into the pits, Alex Fontana handing over to Hash. Morten Stromstedt, oh, look at this. They're trying to round up the Attempto Audi there, very close between Vincent Abril and Christopher Haase coming out of the chicane. So it looked like the Mercedes has been able to gap the two cars behind him in the middle of that process. But that shouldn't have been for position I'd have thought, because the Attempto Audi, the number 99, it should be behind them on track. So I think, yes, Florian Schultz at the wheel of that car, and I think they were putting a lap on it.
Yeah, certainly were. Clearing the traffic so much, well, a little bit of an issue there for both Abril and Haase, but for Menchaca, they've now got a gap, and out comes Polcini, and there's Mikel Pitamba, who's going to go wheel to wheel, side by side into turn one. I think Pitamba has enough on the table. He does, and in terms of those that are boxed, Pitamba leads the race, and it's now Bartone, who I'm sure will figure out in third place, just in behind. There he is, Bartone in the distance. It's Marco Polcini in on-track second place, still, though, the Pro-Am leader.
Yeah, so the question will be is how many of these overall positions can Polcini hang on to as Jedlinski heads out onto the track as well now. So Pitamba, it is leading. We'll get confirmation of it on the timing screen shortly. And there we see Bartone there in third position. And of course, for the pro cars, it's the overall position that matters. It's not a separate pro championship. They fight for the overall position. So he'll get extra points for his championship if he passes Polcini on track, despite them being in separate classes. So they are fighting for position.
They certainly are. It's all about every point counts, and especially with regards to this overall championship that is so constrained and so tight with all of the pro cars, especially the ones fielded here this weekend, given the fact that there is no Al-Faisal Al-Zubair and Mikael Grenier, as now we see yet more lap traffic, as now Crystal Haas, he's ahead, I think. Is he ahead of Vincent Abril?
Yes, he's ahead of Abril, so he's passed him for what I think should be ninth position.
It's fairly recent as well.
Maybe eighth by the time Bashar Mardini and it might be for a podium actually, or maybe fourth or fifth. It just depends where these cars all feed out.
I mean, that was only done in the prior sector.
Yes, it was. So we'll get confirmation when they go over the timing line. We'll get the true order once again. I think it's fifth. That Haas, a net fifth that Haas was just taken, with Bartone in third, as we mentioned. Then fourth should be Menchaca here. Yes, it is. And then Haas fifth. Abril in sixth position. And then Simon Connor Prim in seventh position there, at quite a way back. And then Marcelo Hans come out in second in the Pro-Am standings. Renzo Flux just behind him as well. And then Hash in the car collection, Porsche, third of the Pro-Am runners and 10th overall.
Still a chance for more grandeur for Marcelo Han and his teammates, Alam Kauder, who, like I said, twice pole sitters in this very race in the history of the International GT Open, but have also done well in terms of the championship overall. Back again this time and could yet be on the podium at the end of this very race. They're currently second on the Pro-Am podium right now, with Marco Polcini quite a ways up the road. But as we're now watching Diego Menchaca head through towards turn 6 and 7. There in behind is Christopher Haase, who's managed to unseat Vincent Abril and is starting to actually break away clear of Abril as well. That lapped car really causing a complication as far as they're both concerned. But fortuitous enough for Christopher Haase, he was the one who came out on top in that scrap between the pair as they now break through towards the final sector. Once again, Pitamba still nursing a very, very nice advantage right now. The gap now 2.2 between he and Polcini, and he's careering away looking at the last laps. By the looks of it, he's currently, well, I say that, he's 2/10 slower on the last lap in comparison to Marco Polcini.
Now, Polcini was coming out of the pits on that lap, wasn't he? So we'll see. Yeah, Polcini half second slower on that previous lap, but Bartone lapping fastest of anyone in the top three. These guys are 8 seconds behind the podium battle. So, of course, their target will be Polcini, really, as a Pro-Am car. So there might still be a spot on the podium left for one of these cars.
Could be. Absolutely right, as they now peel down in towards turn 3 out of turn 2. And now we'll see whether Haase can unlock the pace in the Audi R8 LMS. There was a lot of conversation in the paddock, obviously, around the Audi pace, the Mercedes pace. We're going to see it now illustrated with 23 and 50 to go. So now breaking towards turn 4, and Christopher Haase, who has in his own right had so much success, obviously runner-up last season as well, but teams champions were Easterland Audi in their first campaign in the International GT Open, but in prior seasons, Christopher Haase has gone on to become a 2012 Blonde Pan Endurance champion, and even prior to that, an FIA GT3 champion in 2009 and a 2007 ADAC GT Masters champion, and very, very adept at driving GT3 machinery. He's done so for so many years, representing the brand of Audi, and here once again at Hungaroring, looking to measure in exactly that same performance that has brought him to so many great results in the past. But it's all down to Diego Menchaca to stop that from happening. That is going to be one stiff task, Chris.
It certainly is. I certainly would want to try it. It is still Mercedes leading Audi for 4th position. 0.8 of a second between them last time around. Let's see how the gap has fluctuated this time. Wow, 0.7 of a second. They are closing in on that podium battle as well there. In fact, they're lapping quicker than the leader at the moment. 45.7 for Patamba. These guys doing 45.6s and 45.5s. So they are closing in on Bartone and Polcini in front of them. But 8 seconds, and they've got 22 minutes left to try and do it in. So actually, it's in their best interest if they don't fight each other at the moment.
No, that's right. Just obviously try and work together as best you can in order to advance your charge. Patamba in a world of his own. 3.2 between he and Marco Polcini at this stage.
It's looking very good for them
It
at
is,
the moment.
I must say.
Not to put the curse on them.
Could be a first win this season.
But yes, it could be. And of course, for Mikhail Patamba would be his 3rd, wouldn't it? Because he and Reece Barr, who was his teammate last year, are the youngest ever pairing to win in International GT Open last year. And of course, he and Baumann won the season finale last year as well. We were a little bit distracted by the title fight to really celebrate that fact last year. But it's become a really strong combination. And yeah, first win of the season potentially looming here as he's 3.2 ahead of Polcini. Right, this is 96. Lorenzo Fluxa and Marcelo Hahn. So the Pro car chasing the Pro-Am car for 8th position overall. Marcelo Hahn currently 2nd of the Pro-Am runners. And incidentally, in the Pro-Am battle, Morten Stromsted's just taken 3rd position away from Marcin Jedlinski as well in that category. But back with that battle for 4th position. Ideally, Haase clears the Mercedes in front of him and then sets after the podium as well, because I'm sure he believes he's got a bit more pace than the Mercedes in front of him, given how much he's been hounding the back of that car in the last few laps. 20 minutes left on the clock. We've seen how hard it is, even for quicker cars, to round up someone in front of them, but 2 very different lines there, and Haase wagging the tail of that Audi out of turn 2. But, of course, it doesn't help him draw up alongside, and the flashing of the lights there. Classic GT3 driver.
Always a pleasure to watch as Haase gets very close and personal with Diego Menchaca, who's got to try and defend for his life right now to keep this Audi R8 at bay. But not only has he got to do it this lap, he's got to do it for the next 20 minutes, which is going to be a very tough ask for anybody, especially considering the repertoire that Christopher Haase has stood behind him. 5-second time penalty to be added to cars 43 and 95 for not conforming to the handicap, I believe, looking at the screen. That was obviously down to race control, that both managers were asked to come up to race control to discuss that very factor, and they have been penalised as a response. Yeah,
so the 95 is the 3rd place Pro-Am car, and then the 43 being the Zengo Motorsport car. I think that's just a slight rookie error there. I mean, that's their first live GT3 pit stop, so can forgive them for that one. That car, incidentally, running in 23rd position overall, 13th of the Pro-Am runners, for anyone who's keeping score. As Menchaca leads Haase over the line once again. They tick off lap number 28 in this race. You see the rear wing of the Audi shaking vigorously in the turbulent air of the Mercedes, the 6.2-litre V8 in that Mercedes, which we understand for the next generation of car is going to be swapped out for the same engine that's being used in the GT4 car currently, the 4-litre twin-turbo V8 for the next generation of car, which we believe is coming in 2026 from Mercedes. Of course, actually, the 6.2 litre V8 was never actually used in the road version of this car, so it sort of fits a little bit better. But another manufacturer going to a smaller turbocharged engine, but keeping the V8.
Which is always nice to hear. As Maximilian,
that's a wonderful noise.
Yeah, Maximilian Paul now up to 11th as well, so he is on the rise. It's been a good race for both Alessio De Leda and Max Paul so far. Obviously now trying to break into the top 10. Points are on offer. Remember the point system, 15 points for a victory and 12 points for second. If you finish third, you get 10 points, so on and so forth. And then when you reach 10th place, one solitary point is available to you. So you can bet your bottom dollar that Maximilian Paul, on his return to the International GT Open for the first time this season, of course, competed last season as well. You just see there, very aggressive movement there in behind from Christopher Haase as he looks to try and chase down after Diego Menchaca in this on-track battle. Now he's going to try the long way round, coming through turn 12, maybe a slight movement to the inside. Clearly a level of frustration on Haase's part as they now come through the final corner. Obviously isn't content with the fact that he sits in 5th, with Menchaca still holding on to 4th place.
Oh, we've got a replay here. The Yannick Mettler in the Carbine car getting into the back of one of the motor park cars.
Looks like the entry.
It is, it's the 65. So he spun Heiko Neumann round there, but side by side, almost between Haase and Menchaca. Menchaca goes wide into the first corner. Haase gets the up and under, side by side on the exit. The Mercedes should have the line into turn 2, but the Audi out drags Menchaca by the time they get there, and that is Christopher Haase up into 4th position.
Fantastic move there from Christopher Haase. Must say it was a very well considered manoeuvre. Managed to make the most of turn 1 and then open up the door heading through towards turn 2. Unfortunately for Diego Menchaca, just a little bit offline in comparison to where Haase was sat, and if that move was coming, we were waiting for it. The Audi R8 LMS now in full pursuit of trying to close that gap in between he and Anthony Bartone, who still sits in 3rd place. Marco Polcini having a great drive so far, sat still in 2nd, but Bartone only 2.2 away from him. Let's take a look at those last laps and see where they currently sit. Bartone closing by around 3/10 based on the last lap alone.
Yeah, Haase's got 7 and a bit seconds to chase for a spot on the podium in the last 16 minutes of this race. Going to be a very tall order, but you think if anyone's going to be able to do it, it's going to be Christopher Haase. So let's see how that gap unfolds, especially if Polcini and Bartone start squabbling, because Bartone's pace advantage over Polcini isn't massive. And we've seen how much faster you need to be to get past. So he won't find it easy, I think, the American. Of course, his family is very famous in the world of drag racing. His father, Tony Bartone, the Bartone Bros team principal, his uncle Michael as well, a legendary family in the world of American drag racing, and still early in his GT racing career. He only got his license in 2022, did Bartone, and racing in America in GT World Challenge and GT4 America before coming over to Europe last year. So we see Vincent Abril closing in on Menchaca there, but this is on board with Maximilian Paul, trying to make his way into the top 10 overall, get himself into the points. That's Morten Stromstedt in the Pro-Am car just in front of him in the number 95 Motor Park Mercedes. And remember, that car in front of him has got a 5-second time penalty, but of course Maximilian Paul wants to try and make as much progress as possible. Paul was potentially looking at rejoining the GT Open field with his eponymous team. But he's in DTM so far this year and running very nicely there in what is a very competitive field this year, doing himself no discredit at all amongst a great field over in Germany. But back with Haase, and that gap already starting to come down a little bit, 7.4 seconds to Bartone in front of him, but this is Haase's first clear lap since he got ahead of Menchaca. It's our race leader, Mikael Pitamba, sitting quite comfortably up at the front of the field now. It's over 6 seconds clear of Polcini. And, well, make that 7 seconds now. So he's pulled another second over the Italian. And Bartone closing in there. Yeah, see Dominic waiting patiently for the last 14 minutes of this race to tick along, and he'll be a race winner once again in the GT Open. Bartone 1.6 behind. And, oh, is this more trouble for Motor Park? So this is the 95. So this is Maximilian Paul getting past Morten Stromstead there. Unconventional move into turn number 8, but a lovely run from the Lamborghini out of the chicane here.
Yeah, very much more aggressive. You can just see how much more Kirby took coming on the escape, heading out of turn 7, and then found the line heading through turn 8. So a fantastic move on part of Maximilian Paul, and something we've come to expect from someone like him, given his talents and raw ability. We saw it last season at this very circuit. Of course, that led to him taking a race win, and a little ounce of luck as well went his way, but still, nonetheless, it was fantastic to watch. And you still needed to be behind the wheel to achieve it. We're running on board with the Scuderia Villorba Corsa, making its way around the final corner alike as they blast down the home straight before taking turn 1. Michael Blanchimont and Jim Pla together. There we can see as well Anthony Bartone and Marco Polcini just in front of him. They're getting closer and closer. Bartone over the last lap was around 0.6 quicker than Marco Polcini in that pursuit for second place. And it would mean another stellar podium here for Bartone and Schiller. But don't forget and don't discount Christopher Haase, given the fact that he has got that clean air now and has broken away from Diego Menchaca, who now sits behind him over the last lap as well, taking the numbers into account. By the looks of it, I would say that Haase easily around, looking at it,
9/10.
Well, yeah, nearly a whole second faster than Bartone in third place.
Bartone still on course for his first podium finish since he and Fabian Schiller won the season opener back in Portimao, all the way back at the end of April. You see how the gap has ebbed and flowed. So he's not necessarily consistently quicker than Polcini, but he has taken chunks out of him. Of course, we know Polcini, he may be an amateur driver, but he is certainly one of the fastest bronze drivers in this field. Of course, reigning Pro-Am champion, of course. Has a wealth of experience, really, so it's no wonder to see him in such a strong position.
I mean, surely, looking ahead at the way the time's going, Haase would have caught up with Bartone probably with around 3 to 4 minutes to go, should he continue lapping at the pace that he is at this stage. We've got Alan Codet, should I say 3 to 4 minutes to go, I should say, not laps. But we're now watching the cars head down through turn 5. There is the Blau Ferrari of Marcelo Hahn, still in 9th place, being closely pursued by Max Paul, who is starting to eat into that delta. It's 3.4 now between Paul and Hahn, but Hahn also 1.6 behind Lorenzo Flusha, who's trying to close up to Conor Prim, but there's 11.9 separating those two, so there might be a gap that may well be too much to grind into. Haase now 6.1 away from Bartone.
Is that the wipers on there? It was.
Yeah, it might be. It did look a little overcast, I must say, or whether it was just whether there might be something that fell onto the windscreen. I'm not sure, but
well, it's
interesting.
He's not cleaning the screen, is he? He hasn't got the wiper fluid going, has he?
Well, that's true.
Right. It is raining. Look at it. Look at it. It's started to hammer down at turn 2.
It has.
Well, that has thrown a real spanner in the works here. 10 minutes to go. Suddenly, it has started raining here once again. This was not in the forecast. Of course, they're on slick tyres. Is it going to rain hard enough to prompt them into the box for a change to wets, they would hemorrhage time if they had to do that, George. It might be worth, for the last 10 minutes, no matter how wet it gets, just trying to brave it out on the slicks. But this is going to be really treacherous now for the last 10 minutes of this race.
Well, it's how much do you gamble? Because, of course, whilst Pitamba, say, for example, if he was to choose the box, surely you wouldn't want to forfeit such a huge advantage. But at the same time, if you get someone who boxes in front of you, you stay out on the soft tyres. The driver that pitted for the wet tyres could yet be someone who, he might lose out altogether. It could be the case that the wet weather does not actually go your way. But
wet tyres being prepared in the AF Corsa garage. Well,
interesting.
They're just being prepared. We'll see what happens yet. The AM drivers are really going to be tested to the limit now, aren't they? Wet track on slick tyres. We'll see how he goes. Oh my goodness, look how wet it is down there. But they're staying out for now. So nobody bailing into the pit lane just yet. You will lose so much time for a driver change. For a tyre change, I should say.
More last-minute drama at Hungaroring.
Yeah, once again. It always brews up, it bubbles up so nicely at this track, doesn't it? So 8.5 minutes left on the clock. Bartone looking on the inside here. This is for second position between Polcini and Bartone. You see Polcini kind of struggling to get off turn 1 there. Of course, a lot less traction than there was a lap ago. And
it's been declared a wet race by race control.
So that means they can go onto the wet tyres now. And Bartone running a little deep there into turn 2, but he cuts it back very nicely indeed. And Bartone's going to be put to the limit here as well. Big pressure for him to try and bring this one home. And you see, suddenly they're lapping about 2 seconds a lap slower than they were about 5 minutes ago. As Polcini runs a little wide off the road at turn number 4. Bartone right with him. And of course, this is important for Bartone's championship here. Polcini can afford to lose this place. It's not his fight, but Bartone needs it. And a couple of cars skating over the road there. The Am Motor Park car, Heiko Neumann. Polcini following through into the runoff area as well, as we see Bartone really slowing up there. He might have had some sort of slide going through the middle sector. And look who's right with them. Christopher Haase, only a couple of seconds back now. He was 4 seconds back at the start of the lap, but he's caught them hand over fist on this lap alone. There he is. He's about to... Well, he'll be in second place shortly. Yeah,
this has arrived. It's such a momentous time for Christopher Haase, because it's not only that fact either. I mean, look at the way he's lapping. He did a 146.2 in that last lap. Everyone else was on 148s. He's very nearly 2 seconds faster than the rest of the field in front of him here. So a great opportunity for Haase as he goes in pursuit of Anthony Bartone, who obviously... mainly the less experienced driver behind the wheel of this car in comparison to his teammate Fabian Schiller, as they now send it down through towards turn 1. No one decided to box just yet. Christopher Haase, though, now right on the tail of the Mercedes AMG GT3, as now once again it comes close to an Audi. Bartone down the inside of Marco Polcini. Haase is going to try and follow him through. Contact as they come through turn 1, and Haase had to brave it. But look at the run from Polcini here.
Yeah, he's trying to take second place back from Bartone, but Bartone will have the line. Can they get it stopped into turn 2? That's the question. Bartone runs out a little bit wide, and again, Polcini tries to draw it back, but he can't draw an overlap. But Bartone has a wiggle. He runs off the road. He's lost it! No. He's lost it right in front of Polcini into the barriers. Haase goes through as well. He picks up 2 possessions, and Haase into second position. And Bartone has got it going again, but there's debris on the road. And for the second time in 3 rounds, Bartone has had a spin in the closing stages of a race, but this time it has caused significantly more damage.
Yeah, the front left, there you can see it. Obviously, the light is smashed on the front left-hand side of the car. Let's have a look at this moment, heading through turn 1. Polcini getting in very tight to the inside, cutting off Christopher Haase as they made their way through the first corner, and then beckoning their way down towards turn 2. This is where it all erupted. He got onto the paint on the right-hand side, on the AstroTurf, I do apologise, and then eventually spun the car, ended up into the barrier, smashing the front left side of the car, and has now saw himself drop down. But in comes now Vincent Abril as he goes side by side with Diego Menchaca. So the Ferrari has now gone ahead of that Mercedes.
I think that might even be for the podium. No, Polcini's still in front of them, I think. So for 4th position, Vincent Abril going ahead of Diego Menchaca there. And yep, there's Polcini right in front of them. So this could still well be a fight for the podium if they can close in on Polcini in these final 5 minutes or so. Still, no one has bailed for the wet tyres, except for maybe Stephen Gray, who's in the pit lane. But Marcelo Hahn in the Blau Motorsports, of course, run Ferrari, going for a spin out of turn 6, arrives back on the road at turn 7. And did skim through the gravel a little bit, but for the most part, a harmless spin. And of course, for Maximilian Paul, that's put him up into 9th position now in the number 10 Oregon Lamborghini. You see how much water there is out there on track. Marcin Jedlinski coming a cropper as well at the chicane as well, keeping it pointing in the right direction at least aboard the Olymp Racing Audi. Here's our race leader though, still 6.4 seconds clear of the chasing Haase. But
Little snap,
but also Haase was 3 seconds quicker than Pitamba last time around.
You can see him in the distance as well. He's not too far away. Pitamba had a little moment coming out of turn 4, so this race might not yet be over. There's Harsa in the background.
Surely we've only got like 2 laps left.
Oh, he's cut the chicane.
Off the road. Off the road goes Pitamba, our race leader, really struggling to keep it in the right position. And there's Bartone's Mercedes as well that's pulled off the road, so they're not going to get any points from this race. It's another disappointing day for the number 9 Get Speed crew. But look how much confidence Harsa has got in that East Talent Racing Audi.
Almost as if
he's on wets. It's as if he's on wets, but I'm sure he isn't.
Well,
but he's got tremendous confidence in these conditions, and the gap at the start of the lap was 6.4 seconds. It is less than that now, I'll tell you that for sure.
Yeah, it's minimal, it's closing, and I must say, this is where Harsa's experience comes to the foray. They're now digging deep, urging ever closer. Big results on the table. Harsa and Riker looking for points. Riker putting in a mammoth stint. Pitamba clearly struggling behind the wheel of that Mercedes-AMG GT3. The same cannot be said, though, for Christopher Harsa as they wait on intently. The mouse, well, currently clasped with the hands here in the closing stages. You can see Dominic Bauman's concern as he watches on. Harsa goes and takes a wider line, very similar to what we've seen from him in the past, where it comes to battling in these conditions. Now looks to try and get the run, heading down towards turn 2. He's going to push Pitamba all the way as they battle for the lead of this Hungarian race, dipping down in towards turn 2. Still Pitamba holds on, barely holds on. How is he holding on here at this point? Because Harsa is so close to victory.
Remember what we said about 15 minutes ago where we said this car was on course for a win, not to put the curse on it? Well, I think we've about as close to it as we possibly could, but we know how good Pitamba is at defending. He managed to keep some excellent drivers at bay before, but side by side now as Harsa gets an excellent run out of turn 4. Doesn't go, oh, he does go all the way around the outside of turn 5. That's amazing stuff. Now, can he get it clear by the time they get to the braking zone of turn 6? Still there side by side. This is unconventional into him. Not a lot of room into the chicane, and Harsa very wisely backs out of that one. And Vincent Abril is right on the scene as well. Look at the Ferrari. That's for position. The top 3 cars separated by less than a second, I'd say, at this point. And they've got traffic coming up right in front of them as well.
That's
with the car collection Porsche right in there as well. Pitamba's round! No! I can't believe it. That car that has been at the front of the field this entire race has gone round. Oh, I cannot believe it. Christopher Harsa hits the front, rounds up the Porsche in front of him, but he's got Vincent Abril still for very close company. You cannot believe it. We're heading on to the final lap now. We still don't know who's going to win this race.
And I'll tell you what, Diego Menchaca has now also moved up into 3rd place, so that now means the Motor Park also have their Mercedes on the podium. Harsa now on the cusp of taking victory. Let's look at this again. Pitamba, unfortunately, just losing it in the tread of the Porsche in front with the wet, the water, the rain cascading downwards. The grip failed him, and I must say, no doubt as to why Peter Riker is celebrating at the same time reserved. Obviously, out of respect for the Mercedes, credit to them for that. But here at this point, Harsa out in front.
Cheering for, you know, their boy being in the front rather than for Mikhail spinning the car. But it's not over yet. Vincent Abril is really, really on good form here. We thought Harsa was flying. Well, Vincent Abril is in space, if that's the analogy we're going for. But 0.4 of a second between them with 2/3 of a lap to go. All Harsa's got to do is keep it on the road, and they will have their 2nd victory of the season, and surely will emerge right up at the front of the championship, I'd have thought, at the end of this one, with Alessio De Leda scoring in 7th position. But not a great day for our other championship rivals, but still traffic is going to play a part in this one as well, as Harsa tries to round up Giuseppe Cipriani there in the Lamborghini, and that's put a bit of space between the 2 cars, but Vincent Abril finds a much easier way through. We'll see what happens when we go into this the final sector of the lap. Only a couple of corners to go, Abril, one mistake here from Hansen will give Abril the race.
It certainly will. They're coming down to the final two corners now. Turn 13 is the first of them. Remember, these were the scenes, similar scenes when Max Paul took victory last season, but this time Haase is not going to have a late upset. He manages to defend against Vincent Abril, who I must say has pulled together an amazing final stint. They're going to drag race to the line. Maybe, not quite. Haase goes for gold, takes a second win of the season for East Talent Audi. A sensational performance. The weather became a factor once again. We saw it in qualifying. We thought we were on for a dry race. It turns out we weren't. Simon Riker, an illustrious opening stint, and it was all down to Haase to bring it home. Across the line, he still finished Mikael Pitamba. He finishes P5, still points going his way, but no doubt bitterly disappointed as to what could have been. Diego Menchaca comes across the line in third, just behind Vincent Abril as well. Simon Connor Prim in fourth, Mikael Pitamba then in fifth. Marco Polcini, Pro-Am winner here this time around, finishes in sixth overall. Maximilian Paul on his return to the International GT Open and here to Hungaroring finishes a brilliant, sensational seventh place with Nico Menzel eighth. David Fuminelli on his return as well in ninth.
And second in Pro-Am as well, so got ahead of Marcelo Hand there right at the end. And wow, what a debut for Simon Connor Prim, still in his first year at GT3 racing, first GT Open race, brings it in fourth in very difficult conditions there. How about that for a first race, being met with those conditions? But wow, what a drive from both of these guys, Vincent Abril and Christopher Haase.
They've had it all this weekend.
Sensational.
Austria winning against Poland in the Euros.
Austria wins again.
Austria wins again this time in the opening race. Of course, yeah, the opening race here in the International GT Open Hungarian round. So no doubt the celebrations are going to go on long into the night, but don't forget they still have another race tomorrow. But let's take a look at the final stretch to the line once again. Haase hails here at Hungaroring with Vincent Abril in second.
Pitamba was side by side with Polcini as well for fifth and sixth. I think Simon Connor Prim was not far in front of them as well, isn't he?
Peter Riker, what a scene.
Second. Yeah,
fantastic human being as well.
Yeah, he is, and he's just absolutely fantastic character in the paddock. Not afraid to mince words, is Peter for sure.
But he's ambitious.
He is incredibly ambitious, and to think this team came into the championship last year. It was their European debut, basically. I mean, largely run in Germany, and still a young outfit with Simon Riker partnering. Got Audi Works driver Christopher Haase. They've got big support from Audi as well. There's Simon there celebrating as Chris parks up in
you can imagine the scenes now.
A fantastic drive from Chris in that one. There you see. That is the difference in those scenarios, those extreme scenarios with wet track, slick tyres, where drivers like Chris Haase will make the difference.
They certainly do. Experience pays at the end of the day, and that's exactly what Christopher Haase has brought to this team. Also, you've got to give credit to Marco Polcini as well. But also credit to this man, Vincent Abril, who probably never expected in a million years to be in with a chance of laying down a podium, or certainly a podium challenge. He certainly did that coming in towards the closing stages of this race after the wet conditions erupted. There's Diego Menchaca. I think on their part, I think they can take some happiness out of it. Peter Riker, understandably delighted with the result.
Vincent Abril looked like he gave the biggest sigh of relief when he got out of the car there. Woo! That was a tough race. I mean, we thought this was going to be a tough race because of heat and, you know, like really testing the durability of the drivers and the tyres as well. Ended up being very difficult for a number of different reasons, but wow, what a race.
What a race indeed, and it went to East Talent, it went to Simon Riker and Christopher Haase. They're victorious here at Hungary. It is in second place, Marin Angeli and Abril, great drive. Menchaca and Seabear in third, Connor Prim and Polcini in fourth. Heartbreak for Baumann and Pitamba, losing it all on the final stages, and we do wish Pitamba well. Hope he's okay. Polcini and Shiva winning the Pro-Am in 6th place. Deleda and Paul in 7th. Bergstrom and Menzel 8th. Kirkmeyer and Fuminelli in 9th. Han and Coder in 10th place. In 11th, it's Lucas Dunner and also Lorenzo Fluscia. Stromstead and Eichen in 12th. Cozy and Dono in 13th. Forgione and Regulo in 14th. And Pierberg and Walker in 15th. Jedlinski and Bash in 16th. Muller and Mettler in 17th. Kiki Santana and Anna Museka in 18th. Bashar Mardini and Persson in 19th. Then Daniel Nagy in their home race appearance in 20th place. Blancheman and Pla in 21st. Giuseppe Cipriani 22nd. Hash and Fontana in 23rd. Heiko Neumann and Timo Rumpfkarl 24th. Florian Scholzer and Arkin Acker in 25th. Then Jedlinski and Korzanowski in 26th. Bartone and Schiller further back. Runs off the rest of your runners. Of course, we lost Bartone earlier on, but here are your top 3. A sensational battle. Of course, this was your victor, Easterland Tauri, with Christopher Haase at the wheel, bringing it home. What a phenomenal effort, and they're standing by with Alfredo Filipponi.
We are with Simon Reicher and Christopher Haase. Someone was saying at the beginning, first part of the race, it was boring, but the end has been quite entertaining. Simon, you took the start, so how was it?
Yeah, at the beginning was really difficult. Everybody was in good pace, so it was really, yeah, no real point to overtake if not somebody makes a mistake, and it was only to keep up and try best. And yeah, it was just keeping up and fight for position.
And of course, in the final laps came the rain, and that put the show, Christopher.
Yeah, well, when it initially started to rain, actually it has been still okay. But after like 3 laps, it started to be really difficult. And then I thought, okay, I mean, then it's the target to put pressure to the others, giving them maybe mistakes. And yeah, your job is to do no mistakes. At least we finished, we did it, P1. I mean, this car has been great. Competitors are really strong on dry condition. But we did it, and that's why we're here.
It's perfect. Second win of the year, good for the championship, and podium now. Well done.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations to them. Well, let's see how they did it. As we got underway in this Hungarian race in the International GT Open, Dominic Baumann led from the very start, taking them through turn 1. Fabulous starts as well, all round for Eddie Cheever, who got away in second very successfully. Further back, Carol Bash, also trying to gain places at the start, managed to keep Fabian Schiller in behind. Great starts as well for Marcos Sieber. We would eventually see Schiller and Carol Bash come together, heading through turn 1, eventually Schiller displacing the Audi R8 LMS, and would then pursue onwards in pursuit of the lead of the race. Then would come the driver change window period, and all the other drivers would then jump into the car. Eventually, of course, it all came down to this. We saw Diego Menchaca unseated by Christopher Haase heading out of turn 1 through towards turn 2. Of course, with Michael Pitambra out in front, he thought he was home hosed. He thought he was clear. He put in some sensational laps as well to consolidate his lead. But then the rain came pouring down, and it opened a few doors for another string of drivers further back. Of course, enter Anthony Bartone, who would also make moves past the AF Corsa Ferrari, but of course would eventually slip up on the escape out of turn 3, hitting the barrier on the left-hand side as we're looking at it on screen, with damage clearly visible to the front left of the car. Eventually we would have a dramatic finale with Michael Pitambra, who had led all the way from start to finish. Unfortunately, his car would slip up in the dying moments of the race, allowing Christopher Haase and Simon Reicher to take victory for the second time this season, this time at Hungaroring.
Sensational stuff again from this team. It was sheer dominance, wasn't it, in Hockenheim? Very different outlook in this race, but of course that puts Menchaca and Sieber up at the head of the championship now. Baumann and Pitambra that would have been leading the championship had they come home with that win, but they have to settle for third for now. And Haase and Reicher right in there as well now. Alessio Deleda between them as well. So it's still super tight, and we're coming up. There's the halfway point in the championship now, basically, and there's 10 points separating the top 4.
P's 1 to 6.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, really close.
Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, which is what we want, and it's what we like in the International GT Open. The drivers now taking to their steps on the podium. Marco Sieber, Diego Benchaca finishing 3rd. Of course, congratulations to Nicola Marinangeli and Vincent Abril bringing the car home in 2nd, and a fabulous drive as well from Christopher Haase and both Simon Riker. Riker with an incredible opening stint as well to tee up. Here's the national anthem. Well, what a performance indeed. Standing tall on the podium. They're a small family enterprise, really, when you look at the East Talent team in comparison to various others, but they are a collective so strong together in this series. And now looking ahead, they've got a great opportunity to maybe even make that championship challenge happen once again after just missing out on the driver's crown. And Jesus Pereira presenting the trophies to our P2 finishers, Nicola Marinangeli and Vincent Abril. They'll celebrate, obviously, the presentation given to Marco Sieber and Diego Menchaca as well.
Yeah, 4th podium finish of the season for Menchaca and Sieber, 2nd for Marinangeli and Vincent Abril, and for Simon Riker and Christopher Haase, still their 2nd visit to the podium, but both times it's been on the top step.
Yeah, Michelin presenting the winning team trophy as well to the team representative from East Talent Racing. Onwards and upwards, you'd fathom for this lot. Obviously, they're doing things a lot differently in comparison to last year. Instead of leaving the winning to the last event, they're kicking off with it, really, with 2 in the first half of the season.
Well, I mean, so they were disappointed to not win the championship last year. It was, you know, big talking point last year's championship, but there we go, getting with the champagne. But I was talking to Peter earlier. He is absolutely determined to win this championship this year with Chris and Simon. Obviously, they're reigning team champions, but he wants that driver's title that, you know, they fought so hard for last year, and they've just taken a big step into doing that, because only the 2nd pairing to take 2 wins this year.
Yeah, credit as well to our Pro-Am winners, Marco Polcini and, of course, Eddie Cheever, who did the opening stint, was so immensely quick at the very start. All smiles on the faces of the East Talent Audi team for good reason, and puts them in good stead as well for tomorrow. Obviously, you'd imagine the success handicap will come through, however, when we head on through, so do not rest on your laurels just yet. But in terms of the Pro-Am, we will be celebrating Marco Polcini and Eddie Cheever winning here this time. David Fubinelli on his return, also alongside Ernst Kirkmeyer taking 2nd, and then Marcello Hahn and Alan Coder. So much history between those 2 in this very series. 2 pole positions in the past at this track, and now they celebrate a podium, P3.
Oh, there's Alam. Where's Alam gone? He hasn't joined Marcello on the podium, but yeah, they are back up on the podium as well. Their 2nd time on the podium. Last one coming in Hockenheim, of course. And Ernst Kirkmeyer, after victory in Hockenheim in their class, 2nd position here today. It's been very hit and miss for Ernst Kirkmeyer. It's been sort of no points or all the points, but of course Polcini and Cheever extending their lead in the Pro-Am Championship, because
3rd win as well.
Yeah, Martin Jedlinski coming home only 8th in the end, so that's going to be a big difference now between the 27 and the 777 crews up at the head of the championship. In fact, might even have lost 2nd place there, with Morten Stromstedt finishing in 4th. But we'll get confirmation of that later on.
Yeah, spraying the champagne this time around. Davide Fuminelli very keen to do it, and will give the Blau Motorsport Ferrari team a bit of a soaking here this time around. Ernst Kirkmeyer enjoying himself up there too, and Eddie Cheever getting a face full of it. Fabulous to see, but yes, it does place the pairing of Cheever and Polcini in a very good position through to the end of the championship. It's been a dream start for them. Only once have they finished outside the podium places, and that was at Hockenheim in race 2.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been a really, really strong campaign for them, really. And of course, you know, they've missed the podium in the last couple of races, but they've sort of rectified that now, haven't they? And I see the Blau Motorsport pairing back up there as well. But in the AM category,
how about this? Adam Osaka and Kiki Saknana, which is going to be a feel-good victory for them.
Second victory of the season for them. So he ties now with Giuseppe Cipriani and Heiko Neumann and Timo Rumpfkarl in terms of victories in class. So very close between them, but they're the Get Speed boss on the top step of the podium. Cipriani second, and then Neumann and Rumpfkarl third in class. See. Little discussion there between fellow team bosses, Adam Osaka and Timo Rumpfkarl.
Of course, celebrating AM success last season were Timo Rumpfkarl and Heiko Neumann. Trophies being presented to Giuseppe Cipriani by Jesus Pereira, the CEO of the GT Sport organization. Michelin representatives now also presenting our winning AM drivers, Kiki Saknana and Adam Osaka, the winning AM trophies alike. Wonderful result for them as they look to also pursue for further AM success. But a wonderful occasion. What a way to kick things off here at Hungaroring today. Of course, we go again tomorrow. An incredible performance all around. Never fails to amaze us when we come to this circuit, and I'm sure there'll be many more tomorrow. Join us tomorrow, folks. We'll be back for qualifying action in the morning with a race to come in the afternoon over 60 minutes. We'll see you then. Goodbye.